Hey you guys, it's Mr. Waltz. I'm going to show you how to do the modeling here for the first part of the reverse engineering box. So this is part one. We're going to call this the left and right side of the box. Um, Anyways, hopefully you did your measurements and you have all these numbers here. And you can use your numbers, or I'll suggest some numbers during the video that you can use. Either way should be fine. Um, So anyways, if you look at this thing, it's basically a rectangle, and you can see that it has a width of A and a height of N. And then we have all these fingers here on the top, and we have all these fingers on the side. And what we're going to do is make the ones on the top and then use a mirror tool to make them on the bottom exactly the same. And we're going to do the ones on the right side and then use a mirror tool to make them on the left. Um, and then you can see here's the thickness is O. So like I said, you could read the numbers off your paper or just use the ones I suggest. Either way is fine. Um, go over to Fusion. So in Fusion, you want to make a new project, and we're going to call this reverse engineering. And double click the project so it's your active project. Then we will close that tab so we have more room. So we're going to do a create sketch. And what I've learned is for the laser cutter, we actually want to sketch on the XY plane. I think on the ruler, I had you guys do the XZ, and that was wrong, I found out. It wasn't a big problem the way we did the rulers, but we're going to use some tools this time where it's important for this to be on the XY. So I click XY, there we go, boom. And when we make pieces that are going to assemble together, it's important that the origin of our sketch is basically in the middle of the part. Um, you'll see later when we start assembling things together why that matters. But for now, what we're going to do is instead of using a normal rectangle, we're going to go in our create menu and get the center rectangle and click on that. Put your mouse on the origin, click, and you can just draw a rectangle. And we can type in the numbers. So you have your number. You could see right now it's the width of the rectangle. That would be A. So you could type that in. For me, that was 1.25. And I forgot to hit tab, and that's okay. And then what we want to do is we want to make the height of this rectangle be our dimension n. So I'm going to do a dimension here, and I could type 1.25, but I'm going to show you a trick. So if you put this dimension here, you could type 1.25. That'd be fine. Notice though, when I put my mouse over this dimension, it says D2 dimension value. So Fusion uses this thing called parameters, and parameters is where it uses computer memory to store all of your dimensions. So D1 was the 1.25 that we typed in before. D2 is this new dimension. And so you could just type here instead of typing 1.25, you could just tell it to use the uh, the number for D1. And so the two ways you could do that, you could just type D1 and it's smart enough to go read that. But an even quicker way is to just, instead of typing here, just go click on your first dimension and it'll automatically enter D1 for you. And then you can hit enter. And you can see this makes it a square. We also could have used a equal constraint, would have done the same thing, but now we have two dimensions. We have the original 1.25 and then this other one. You can see it says fx. It means that this is a function of the other dimension, if you remember functions from math. And by the way, you can do, let me double click this dimension. You can do functions here. So you could say, I wanted it to be half the other one. I could put /2. That means divide by 2. And you can see it divides it in half. So it's a really powerful tool. I'm going to undo this to make one dimension be a function of another dimension. And that's called parametric design because those little numbers, D1, D2, D3, da 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 da, those are called parameters. Okay, anyways, we got our rectangle drawn. Next thing we want to do is this thing is going to have symmetry. It's going to have the top and the bottom are going to be the same. The left and the right are going to be the same. So when we have symmetry, it's useful in the sketch to create center lines. So I'm going to choose the line tool. I'm going to go over in the sketch palette and I'm going to pick center line. And I'm going to draw 2 lines, one from the top midpoint of the rectangle to the bottom midpoint, and then one from the left midpoint to the right midpoint. And those are center lines. I'm going to churn off center line after I draw them so that the next thing I draw isn't a center line. But we'll need those lines later when we do our mirroring. So I'm going to zoom in here and we can start sketching. So let's go look at our drawing. So you can see what we got here was we got these cutouts on the top. You got 1, 2 cutouts here in the middle. You got a cutout on each corner. And then on the side, there's 1 cutout on each side. So for these cutouts, the easiest way to do this is just draw rectangles. So I'm just going to go here and start drawing rectangles. Let me zoom. This is a pretty good zoom. So rectangle, I'm going to go to the corner and just make a random rectangle. Okay, I'm not even worried about numbers right now. I'm going to make another one over here. I'm going to make another one over here. Make sure the rectangles start right on the top here. I'm going to put one in this corner. And then I'm going to have one over here on this side. Okay, so drew those 5 rectangles, and now what I need to do is dimension them. And so you can use your dimensions off your sheet here. So, we did A already, so let's go to B. So B here is the height of this finger. You can see it's measured from that corner to that corner. So you can just go on your sketch and create those same dimensions. So just like B is here, you can create it on your sketch. Let's flip back. D for dimension. I'm going to click on that point right there and that point right there. Go to the left, and we're going to put this number in. This number should be close to 0.118, which is 3 millimeters, 0.118 inches. You could type 0.118, or you could type 3 millimeters, or you could type whatever you have on your sheet. I'm going to put 0.118. That's close enough for what I'm doing, and hit enter. So now I have that distance there, which is the height of these fingers. Now you can see I created myself a problem here, right? My rectangle just moved off of that line. So silly me, I'm gonna have to fix that. So easiest way to fix that kind of situation is to use a coincident constraint right here, coincident. I'm going to click on that corner of the rectangle and then click on this top line, and that'll make that rectangle stick up there. Sometimes those kind of constraints will happen by themselves and you don't have to do this, but obviously here something didn't happen right. So coincident is good glue if you get that situation. All right, so we did dimension B. Next thing is dimension C. You can see here it's the width from this point to this point. So I'm just going to go on here and D for dimension. And sorry, I forgot the points. It's going to be this corner to this corner. So I'll go back here. I click here and I click here. And I put this right up here. This one should be really close to the previous dimension, which was 0.118. I could type in 0.118, but I'm going to do that trick I showed you before. I'm going to click on the previous dimension and just hit enter. And that makes those automatically the same, which is really nice. Okay, then I'm going to do D. D, you can see, is the width on the top of this finger right here. For this one, you should have got something close to 0.132. And so you could type that in, you could type the number off your chart. 0.132, by the way, what it is, it's just the difference between 0.25 and this 0.118 dimension. So you could also go in here and type 0.25 minus 0.118 would work. So you get the same number. Another way you could do it is 0.25 minus 3 mm. And you can see that's the same number. Or you could just do 0.132, or you could do the number off your chart. Okay, sorry for all the choices, but that's how it is. So now we got that. Then we just have to do E, F, and G here, and these should all be really close to 0.25. So I'm just going to put those dimensions in. I'll put this one here, that's E. Boom, you can use your number for E. I'm just going to put 0.25. This one here, this would be F. I'm going to reuse the number from E, just click on it. Then this one here would be G as in golf. I'm going to click right there and I just reuse that one. So this way I don't have to type as much. Every time you type, it's a chance to make a mistake. So we try to avoid it. Right here you have H. H is the width of this finger, but you can see this is just symmetrical. If this is symmetrical, it's the same as D. So you could put a dimension across here. And then we can just steal this dimension D. Just click on that and hit enter. So now the top is all looking good. Let's go into our next dimension. We did H. Let's do I. So I is the height of this box here in the corner. So I'm just going to go dimension from here to here. And this one should also be close to 0.25. I'm going to just go click on the original 0.25 and steal that. Um, whoa, little lag there. And then we have J and K. Those are also going to be 0.25s. So I'm just going to keep rolling down here, put that one in. Let me pan that back, click on that 0.25, hit enter. And then finally this one here, click on that and make that 0.25. Okay, now I put in these dimensions. I have some blue lines, so I need to see to that. The blue lines, let's go look, start over here on the left. You can see this blue line. So this rectangle doesn't know how far down to go. It can go up and down like that, right? And what we want it to do is be even with this one on the right. So this thing is symmetrical. So the easiest way to do that is a collinear constraint right here. You can click on that, click on the bottom of this rectangle and then the bottom of the other one, and it'll even them up. You can see it turns black. Up here on the top, these two cutouts, you can see we have the same exact situation. So we're going to keep our collinear constraint running and click on that one and then that one. And then over here on the side, I have this rectangle here and this one, they should be even. So collinear again to make those even. It saves me from having to type in more dimensions or do equal constraints or whatever. So now I got all the boxes on the top. I got the boxes on the side. And guess what? It's time to finish this thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a new tool. It's called Mirror. I'm going to hit Escape, go to my Create menu. And it's down here by rectangular pattern and circular pattern. So you can click on Mirror. There we go. And you can see mirror pops up and it wants you to tell it two things. It wants to know the objects that you want to make a mirror image of, and it wants to know the mirror line that you want to reflect it across. So for the objects, I'm going to do the top boxes first. So I'm just going to make a big select box across here, pick all those boxes on the top. You can see it says 34 selected because it's picking up edges and things like that. And then I'm going to click mirror line here, boom, and then click that center line that I drew, that horizontal center line. And you can see what it does. It makes a mirror image. There's some boxes on the bottom now that look the same. If it looks good, hit OK. Then same thing again, create mirror. This time I'm going to select the box on the right. I'm going to choose mirror line and pick this vertical line here. And it's going to mirror across that line. And you can see I get the box on the left. Notice there's a lot of constraints because everything's symmetrical. That's what mirror does, is it makes copies and then makes them symmetrical. If you don't like looking at all these constraints, if it's starting to give you a headache, over here in the sketch palette, you can click the checkbox to turn that off and make your view a little simpler. So this is a good sketch now. Everything looks right. It looks like the original. All the lines are black. It means we're fully constrained. You can finish the sketch. I'm going to go to my home view and it's extrude time. So we're going to click extrude. The center lines seem to have broken it up into different sections. So when I extrude, I'll have to click on each corner of this to add them to the extrude. And then we're just going to put in the extrude distance. The extrude distance, this is 3 millimeter thick wood that we use. So, and hopefully you measured a number here for O that was close to 0.118 inches, which is 3 millimeters. And so I'm just going to put 0.118. That should be real close to what you got. And then hit enter. And there it is. This first piece is here. Now, this material right now, this is steel. And we're going to use either the wood or the acrylic, right? I'm going to use wood for now. I'm going to go up here on the top level component here in the browser. I'm going to right click and I'm going to choose physical material. And physical material window pops up. This is wood. There's a couple of different materials here you could use. The wood we're using is birch plywood. This material is solid birch wood, not plywood, which is made of little layers of wood. So it's the right kind of wood, but not the right construction. And then down here we have a couple of plywoods. We have a finished plywood and a sheathing plywood. Finished plywood would be the closest type to what we have, but it's not birch. So, it doesn't matter which one you use. They're all really similar. I'm going to use the birch just because it's the right type of wood. Click that and then drag it onto your part. You see the color changes. Doesn't really look like wood. So we're going to hit escape and we're going to also go to the top level component and we're going to right click and apply an appearance and wait for it. And here it is over on the right. You can see we have wood solid down here. This is the best one. There's these other wood constraints under wood that are fine, but the wood solid ones are really cool because they show it makes it like a real piece of wood. So down here on the bottom is unfinished. That's what this would be because we're until we put a stain or paint on it. There's several woods you can pick. The one that I think is closest in tone is the oak. So I'm going to use the oak. If it has this little download arrow by it, you just have to click the arrow and it will download that material, and then you can use it. You can see I already downloaded oak, so I'm just dragging oak over here. Boom. Wait for it. Wait for it. There it is. I'm going to close the appearance tab, and then if you look at this really close, you can see that the wood, it has like a different grain pattern. This would be called face grain over here. Over on the side is edge grain, which is really similar looking. This would be in the direction that the tree grew, and then in here you can see this. It kind of looks like there's little dots, and then there's also kind of a circular curved pattern. This is what's called end grain, and so that's like, where you see the rings of the tree. So it's kind of cool. It makes it a realistic piece of wood, not realistic for plywood, but looks awesome anyways. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this. I'm going to click save, and this one is going to be the left and right side of my box. So what I'm going to do is just save this as left right now. Boom, and hit save, and there's left. Now, right now, the left and right side of the box is going to be the same, but later on, we're going to turn this into dice or different kinds of boxes, and it'll be useful to have both a left and a right separately, like if they're going to be different numbers on a die. So what I'm going to do is go to my data panel, and I'm going to right click here, and I am going to copy the left. Okay, and what it'll do is say, where do you want to copy? Well, I'm going to copy to reverse engineering. Hit copy. Now I have two lefts, and what I'm going to do is rename one of them, this bottom one. I'm going to right click, rename, and make this right. So now I have a separate right and left. And later on, when we actually put the box together, it'll be nice to have these. Okay. So that's it for this one. Go on to the next video. I'll show you how to do the front and back of the box, and then the top and bottom. Good luck.